back to Unfilter That Lens for the second part of our series on anxiety with Anthony Douglas Jones. It's actually podcast number 3, but our second episode, we started off with my lovely husband, sweetest husband of all time, Anthony Douglas Jones. And we were talking about anxiety in terms of a male perspective, his life growing up. And now we're going to continue into the parenting side of things. Welcome back, Anthony. Good to have you here again, sweetest husband of all time. So last time we spoke about your realization that anxiety is real, the fact that a lot of men don't acknowledge the anxiety, that they have the propensity to be masking their anxiety for most of the time, because they feel the need to be strong and authoritative and have a sense of power. Like that's what we were discussing. Yeah. So in light of that, how has your parenting changed in view of the fact that all 3 of our kids struggle with anxiety? How has your parenting strategy changed?
Well, I would first like to say that my parenting structure or plan or the way I conduct myself in front of my kids changed dramatically since I realized that I am not the center. I am not the patriarch of the family. I'm not the one that makes decisions for their lives. And that was thanks to your help, because I think coming into the relationship, you did let me know that a family is, for us, it's 5 people. A family is 5. A family isn't 1. So then I also started to realize that how do you create a safe place for these kids to grow up, 5 of them, without leaving one behind, whether it's one of the parents or one of the kids being left behind. So 3 out of 5 succeeding in life is not what you are wanting. You're wanting 5 out of 5. Right. So my parenting changed, I think, probably 10 years into our relationship or into our marriage. Kids were out of diapers, nappies, and they were pretty much creating their own Personalities, and they were very different. Yeah. All 3 kids exceptionally different.
Yes.
So that's when I realized I can't have one rule for everyone.
Sure.
And I also started changing my attitude as a husband towards you, because it wasn't a case of I'm right, you're wrong.
Sure.
Which is another thing, which is a generational thing. It comes from when we were growing up. The father generally is regarded as right, finished.
The final say.
He's got the final say. And he's the one that earns the living. He's the one that pays for everything. So give him some slack. No, I don't see it that way. I think every single person in the family has got a very important role to play. So my parenting changed then, and I think a little bit later on, as the kids got to their teenage years, and I was diagnosed in 2014 with multiple sclerosis, I think that is when I started realizing that our parenting was still very different to others.
Sure.
And you, as much as I understand that we sort of got ostracized by friends, community members, church members, whatever it might be, who basically said we were doing things incorrectly. Not according to this or not according to that, or surely that's going to create problems. Then we found ourselves in a place where we knew what the steps were going forward. Yeah. And for me, the most important step was actually handing over to you, who in my mind had the greatest ability to actually find out exactly where the issues lay, because the masking or the personalities coming out, there was actually something behind that hidden. Whereas I would react. I still to this day react, and I try my best not to, but I react to whatever is being put in front of me without even stopping and thinking. Whereas you were able to say, no, hold on. That little bit of rage that I see in your eyes over there, what's going on inside? That's when I started realizing, hold on, I need to let you take charge here, and I will be your support. Not because I'm weak, it's because that is the good thing for the family, for the 5 of us.
So like basically looking at each person's strength and using that to the benefit of all, basically.
Try and bring out their strength whenever you can. And your strength was definitely an understanding of personalities, of people, of your kids, better than I.
Well, I think your strength was bringing calm to a situation that could have gone very wrong. Because, as you know, when you're going through dark times, and just tumultuous and tempestuous times, sometimes the person who plays the role of mediator and being that actually just loses the plot. Hello, guilty. And I think that you and I worked well as a team, where you were able to step in and go, no, actually, you need to back off right now and take a breather. So I love that you think that it's all me, but actually I think it was really a team effort. And I think if we look back objectively, I think the only reason that A, we stayed together, B, we managed to come through it, and C, our children have managed to come through it, is because we worked as a team, as you say, as a family unit, rather than one person leading and another person following.
Sorry, just quickly interrupt there. I remember you mentioned in the previous podcast, my dad watching me playing golf, etc.
Yes.
Golf was my passion. Golf was something I thrived in. I did well in. But there was a terminology that they used in golf which sums this relationship up. It's dovetailing.
Oh, that's good.
You cannot all be.
That's so good.
You cannot all be thriving or just at the top of your game
all the time. Sure.
One of you is going to be down. And I think we've dovetailed well. One picks the other one up when they're feeling down, they're feeling low, they're struggling with. The dovetailing is critical. And that is what I'd say we've mastered.
Yeah.
The kids are starting to master that as well.
Yeah.
They know exactly where to step in and help each other, because they're still they're not teenagers, but they still have...
They're young adults.
They're young adults. They still have the tendency to want the best for themselves, but
normal.
But when they are in trouble, the first person to step up will be one of their siblings.
Yeah, true story.
That is, to me, that's incredible. I think that's where we look at saying we've done something right.
Yeah, definitely, because our kids are very close and they are each other's best friends, and they do want the very best for each other.
Correct. There's no
competition.
Or competition.
Correct. I also want to ask how you as a person have changed. Like, what has changed inside you? Have you found that you have become more tolerant, more softer with people who suffer with anxiety? I mean, you were talking about the fact that you were quick to react. Like, as a person, have you been able to evolve and grow? How has your mindset shifted and changed from everything that we've been talking about?
It's a very good question. It seems like you and I have been complimenting each other throughout this podcast, but the truth is we've been through some rocky times, whether it be with each other or with people around us.
Sure.
I still make mistakes.
Yeah.
I still make those mistakes. I do still react too quickly, and I know that.
Normal and human.
And it's normal and human.
Yeah.
Is it better? I would like to think it's better. I like to think it's a work in progress. Everything in life is a work in progress, to be honest with you. So if you have a mental health issue or there's anything that you're not proud of that you do, it is always a work in progress. It's almost like something that just won't go away, but you can learn how to control it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned also again in your first podcast about your coping tools. What tools? You keep on asking the kids, what tools can you use to get through this?
Yes.
And that's what I'm starting to learn now. There are tools when that rage comes, and we all have moments where we just, let's call it lose it or whatever the story might be. Those coping tools, I'm starting to understand them and just take a breather, step away. And I think I'm starting to listen to you as well. Whenever you are seeing that happen for me and you say, and just take a break. Just leave.
It's happening. Stop.
I thought I was happening now. Yeah, exactly. And I think that is exactly when I know I will probably never completely overcome those things. And I suppose most of you listening will never overcome certain things you'd love to just forget about and just not have. I have this dream that I could be this wonderfully calm, relaxed, inspirational person who could just give advice that is just spot on. I'm not there. I'd like to get there.
I think you're a good bit of the way there.
Oh, thank you. But for now, I'm going to rely on you, on those around me, just to call me out and say, that's wrong. And as much as that irritates the hell out of me to get told you're wrong or that was wrong,
It's not lovely.
and then as much you try and convince yourself, I'm in the right, you're in the wrong, it doesn't help to carry on in that way.
So I know that there have been a lot of things in your life especially the last 4 years that we've had to deal with. And one of those things is being late diagnosed as being on the spectrum, which is not surprising considering we have a son who's on the spectrum. So I wanted to ask you, in terms of that diagnosis, how do you think that unmasking and then looking at some of your reactions and realizing that those reactions were based on anxiety, i.e. feeling trapped, backed into a corner, fearing a situation, feeling overwhelmed, overwhelmed by sound, sound sensitive, tactile defensive. Like, when you look at that now, does it make more sense to you that you possibly might have been showing anxiety in a different form?
Without a doubt. I think looking back at it, since, as you said, our son was diagnosed on the spectrum, hindsight, looking at it, I can see, I think all of us have got we're all a little bit on the spectrum. It's a case of how far down we are, I suppose. But I think my ADHD was the one thing that came out of this as well. I never knew I had ADHD. There were kids at school in the 80s, 70s, 80s that were immediately put onto a medication that everyone knows about. And they would just stay clear of that guy because there's a problem there. I'm on those meds right now. I've got ADHD and hey,
you're great.
It does irritate me because I do tend to interrupt a lot. I do tend to do certain things which irritate conversation and they stop communication. So when it comes to kids and going through that stuff as well, I rely a lot on you and I keep on looking to see when I can interrupt or when I can say something. And if I'm not, you must just say, that's fine. And that has been difficult.
Yeah.
On the spectrum, ADHD, it's just added to our list.
Well, the truth is we still have a lot to learn, and the spectrum is not linear, I wouldn't say. I would think that the spectrum is circular. There's all different shades and sizes and reasons, and there's just so much that we still need to learn about being on the spectrum.
Yeah.
But from my personal point of view, watching you unmask and step fully into yourself has been the most incredible journey, because you are quirky and lovable and kind and positive, and you have an ability to retain information. I don't even know how you do it, because my brain, it all just leaks out, whereas you retain information like I've never experienced before, which is something that has happened in the last sort of 4 years more and more. And I don't know if it's because your disease is changing the nature of your brain,
possible,
or it's always been there and you feel comfortable and safe enough to let that out.
I think that to me is the answer. I feel comfortable. We all have got this quirky side of us. It's
some more than others.
Somewhere, but it's sitting there. The one that wants to make a joke all the time, the one who wants to play a prank. And we basically pull that back into ourselves and said, no, we can't do that, because how are they going to react? I got to that stage possibly when I was diagnosed, I'm not too sure, where I basically said, you know what, I've been given this illness. I'm going to live the life I want to live. Not a case of me. It's a case of I want to live true to myself.
Yes.
And that is where I get myself into trouble. I get quirky at times when I shouldn't. It's a very sensitive society we live in right now. And
true.
I can't say anything and everything comes to my brain. I need to think about it. With ADHD, that does make it more and more difficult. But I'm learning how to deal with it. I will be quirky till the day the man upstairs says, you need to come back to me.
Oh, right.
I will remain quirky because I just want to be true to myself. I don't want to live, not a lie. I mean, many people listening will look at themselves and say, I'm not really living the true life for me. it's easier said than done.
Sure.
The fact that I was able to just say, I'm going to crack jokes when I want to, was easy for me, but it's not easy for everyone. It really is not. Yeah.
I do think, Ant, that having you around, people just generally really enjoy your company. And I think it's because you bring such a lightheartedness to conversations and an authenticity that we don't often see. Like, I don't think you've ever been categorized as a man's man, one of the boys, you know. I've always, since I've known you, since I met you at the tender age of 19, when I was 19, I met you. And sitting next to you at that 21st birthday, I knew then that you were someone different. But I have a feeling that you didn't know that. And it was interesting for me because I've watched you over the years and how you've changed and how your thinking has changed. But I actually wanted to ask you, how do you think and how difficult has it been for you to restructure your thinking and your attitude towards mental health in general, and anxiety? And when I talk about mental health, I'm talking about all aspects of mental health. You know, we have kids who have struggled immensely in the past 4 years, and especially the past 4 years. How do you think your thinking has changed and your attitude towards mental health has changed? And how difficult has that been for you?
Well, I think the simple answer is it's not about me. It's about the five of us. And how do we get through this difficult time? And one could say I stepped up. For me, it was natural. The love that we have for our kids is huge.
Yeah.
And it overtakes any sort of obstacle in front of you. My change in my thinking towards anxiety, depression, into personality disorders, into all of these things. I mean, we've been through everything, almost everything.
Yes.
It's a case of, this is a challenge. I love challenges.
I know you do.
My life has been full of challenges.
Yeah.
And I've thrived in them. You know, from having to give up the family business, which I was running for nearly 20 years, a massive challenge, handing over. The new challenge began. And I'd like to say I stepped up there. It's a case of embrace that challenge in front of you.
Yeah.
Make sure you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for others.
So your motive
is so rewarding.
Your motive is important. The motive behind your action. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Motivation for me was definitely to see my kids thriving and to see you happy. I mean, the five of us need to be happy. Otherwise,
what does happy mean? What do you mean by happy? Do you
What is
mean
happy? That's a good
smiling and joyful every day, or do you mean content with your life as it is? Like, when you say you want to see people happy, what does that mean? Because, like, let's define it.
I think the word content is big. It's also a case of, one is happy when you're true to yourself and you start realizing what you actually thrive on.
Yep.
You don't thrive on money, or you don't thrive on achieving a goal at work or winning an Olympic gold or whatever the story is. Just side note, I tried to get myself an Olympic medal on my speech when we got married. I said I was going to win a medal for paddleboarding or canoeing or something.
Kayaking.
It never happened, but I gave myself that challenge for kayaking or surf skiing, whatever it was. I set myself that challenge, and I'd like to think I actually did push myself, but then life happened, kids happened.
Well, you did complete several Argus cycle tours and did get some medals for that.
Those are all just little challenges that I set myself.
You say little, like it's long. Like it's a bicycle race for kilometers.
Come on.
It's long.
Well, I think you've also got this incredible friend who lives in Australia who also loves challenges, and she sets herself those challenges in order to push herself.
Shout out to Jackie Ford, hello, friend in Australia.
She basically puts herself in a position where she cannot say no, and she doesn't do it for anyone else around her.
No.
She does it for herself. And I think that's what I'm trying to do as well for myself, set myself challenges and obstacles to get over. Sure. The one big obstacle is mental health for kids. And that is why you in particular started Unfilter That Lens, and I've got on board, and I'm just passionate about helping kids get through these struggles. I've never been through them.
Yeah.
So you've alluded to going through quite a bit growing up. I didn't have that. But having said that, I've witnessed it. I've felt it in my heart with our kids. I've seen you reminiscing in the past about what you went through. So I never asked you early on, but I've seen you going back in your mind and realizing how tough it was.
Yeah.
Is that fair for kids to go through that? No, I don't think it is. I don't think it's fair for any kid to have to battle with those kinds of issues. Sure, kids are different. They grow up differently. They need to be disciplined at times. I'm not saying that they should just be told they can do whatever they want to do.
No.
I don't agree with that. I do agree with finding out which kid you have in front of you.
And what makes them tick.
What makes them tick. Where does that kid need help?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. And I think also acknowledging the difficulties that the kid is facing and actually paying attention to what they're not saying as much as to what they are saying, because behavior is a really, really loud speaker. I want to close off today by just asking you one last question. You've learned a lot over the last 4 years, especially, but also just in being married to me, because let's be honest, it's a task. But I want to know what advice you would give today to maybe young men, young adults, men, fathers, grandfathers, with regards to mental health. What advice could you give to them in general? Like, what would you say?
It's a tough one, because the older generation, our age, brought up in the 70s and 80s, or whatever the story might be, they are showing signs of being open to understanding mental health.
Yeah.
But they're not quite where they should be, because they are the parents of the teenagers and the young adults, whatever it is.
Sure.
They have improved. But the generation before that, our parents,
yes,
it is very, very difficult to change their thinking and to explain to them that mental health issues are there. That is the post-war generation where, well, that's where mental health became a major issue. PTSD, the whole lot, that became a major talking point. With men in particular. But I think what we also ignored is the women battling with the men coming back.
Sure.
They had to take care of the family.
Changed
men, completely different men. I'm not saying a generalization again, but I think to try and change the thinking now, I think the kids of today, fortunately, are starting to understand that mental health issues and concerns are very real.
Okay.
They are able to say, I have a problem.
Yeah.
Whereas our generation, you say I have a problem, they still have to question themselves a bit. How was I brought up? Do I need to do it like my parents did, or do I need to take it new? I'd love to be able to change this generation that we're from, change their thinking on mental health, because it needs to change quickly. The parenting of these kids is critical. The kids at the age of 12, 13, 14 are not able to change themselves without help.
So we would say to the fathers, the grandfathers, the young adults, is take it seriously. Like, just listen and take it seriously.
No one wants to suffer from a mental health issue.
No, of course.
Nobody wants to be put in that position where they're crying in their room and don't want to come out, or don't want to have a shower, don't want to come and eat.
No, that's
nobody wants to be in that position. I think this generation is the suck it up generation. Says, well, if I could do it, you could. But you haven't been through what they've been through. And it's a completely different world. We're living in a world where the phone is massive. The phone, back in our day, the phone was something you picked up and actually spoke into. Whereas nowadays, a phone is basically your PC. It's your life. It's your everything. And that I don't condone the fact that the smartphone has got so strong.
Sure.
I do condone the fact that there are areas that it has really become a problem for a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And they need help to overcome those things.
Yeah. So that's an interesting topic that we can maybe discuss in another podcast, because I'd really love to cover that from maybe our kids' point of view. Yeah, the smartphone. I mean, how does that help mental health? How does it deviate from mental health? How does it take away? But I'm just so glad that you came on and joined us today, because I think you have a lot to offer, not just because you're the sweetest husband in the whole wide world of long time.
There you go again. I love it. Carry on.
But also because you are someone who is constantly willing to learn, and that you operate from a growth mindset, which is really something that you've developed over the last 7 or 8 years. I would think that the need to actually continue learning and to grow and learn and change thinking. So I just want to say thank you so much for being vulnerable with us today. And thank you so much for lending yourself to us. And I hope you'll come again. I'll make you come again. But thank you so much. And thank you to our listeners for joining in again. Hopefully we'll hear more from Anthony Douglas Jones, sweetest husband of long time. And thank you so much for being a part of our journey. We'll see you again in our next podcast. Thank you and bye.